Good morning. At the risk of repeating myself, my name is Derek, and I'm the host of the conference and the intergroup chair for Southeast Florida. Welcome to this last day of our conference. Today I have the pleasure of introducing a good friend of mine who's been a supporter of mine ever since I came into the program about 6 years ago. And before I tell you a little bit about Andy, let me just tell you about what else is happening today. At 10:30 till noon, we're going to have Bonnie back. Bonnie's the person who was involved in the writing of the Loving Parent Guidebook, and she made her main presentation yesterday. And she's going to come back and answer questions that have been deposited in the box by the registration desk, and she will also answer questions from the floor. It's not going to be a workshop, it's going to be a Q&A session. She's going to be followed by, she's not going to take up her entire slot between 8:30 and 10, but she's going to be followed by Adelina. Adelina was she's the fun person. She's the one who introduces fun into some of our meetings. And she led I keep wanting to say, yes, thank you, the line dancing last night, and she'll be back, and she's got something up her sleeve to render some fun into the meeting later on this morning. After that, we'll have lunch, and then starting at 1:30, we'll do our closing ceremonies. Andy has been a mainstay of the revival of ACA in South Florida, in particular in Palm Beach County. He was my predecessor as the intergroup chairman. He pretty much single-handedly, although he won't accept credit for this, kept us going through the pandemic by setting up Zoom meetings just about every day and participating and leading most of them. And we owe a debt of gratitude to Andy and his shepherding of the program through those dark days in some cases. And these days, Andy's been focusing on his own spiritual growth. And he's probably one of the most spiritually attuned and people that I have had in my life. And so I think you'll enjoy listening to Andy bring together various elements of his spirituality and apply them to his recovery. So without further ado, I give you my good friend, Andy P.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Hope we all had a good night's sleep. If not, you might fall asleep at this one. So, my name's Andy P. I don't really know the dates because I don't keep dates. I really started living one day at a time. But somewhere 10 years or more ago, I came into ACA. So I'll give you a little bit of my story, and then we can get into some of the work I'd like to do, share some spiritual tools that I use, meditations and stuff. Okay, so I grew up in a very impoverished home. We lived in projects in Brooklyn. My parents were not educated. My mother was she was illiterate and emotionally unstable. At 5 years old, we moved into a new neighborhood, and I got anxious and kind of excited. There was a new neighborhood. I had a backyard. And I went traveling off and crossing streets that I had no idea how to cross. And when I came home, my mother was very angry and decided to burn my hands on the stove and sear them. And so there's my complex PTSD. I'm not in a safe home, I'm terrified all the time, and here's my hypervigilance developing because my surroundings where I am is not safe. And so through the years that fear built up, and then as fear does, it builds up into another energy called anger, and then through that it's a rage. But at the time I was able to, because my mother would beat me regularly, with a wonderful metal spoon that she used to make a beautiful Italian sauce. And I put her down on her knees and told her if she ever hit me again, I'd kill her. And that happened, my father came home early from work and made sure that wasn't going to happen by beating me down and making me aware that my anger wasn't useful in the house. And so I kept stuffing that anger. And that was basically my time to get out of the house, run outside, do my drugs and alcohol, and anything else that could get me away from what I was feeling and experiencing. So, and the reason I tell you this story is only because that's all that fear we talk about, the fear and self-doubt of in a child or of an adult child. But having been through that, I went through, and back in the 80s, I came into AA, which threw me out because I was talking about drugs. And in those days, you didn't talk about drugs. It was simply alcohol. Even though alcoholism is a disease, and there's many, many ways it manifests. And we all know that by our obsessions and addictions. I got into NA, and on my 10th anniversary, and this is after I had gone to school and graduated as an alcoholism and addictive behavior counselor up in South Oaks, Long Island, I decided to have a glass of wine because I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just a drug addict. Well, you know the story from there. And like I said, so then I came into, and I've been going through therapy, and that's where I was diagnosed with complex PTSD. And I had a wonderful, wonderful woman. I consider her my angel, came from heaven and sent me to an ACA meeting. And the first meeting I went to was a men's meeting. Now, I'm an Italian boy from Brooklyn, New York, Queens, whatever, and I don't talk about my fear, and I don't show any fear. You know, that mask is on very tightly. But coming through this process, and I just wanted to share that the process we go through here, I'm going to go over the Tony A's 12 steps. I hope everybody got a copy of them. Because they are the process of self-actualization. And there's a wonderful gentleman back in the days, his name was Maslow, and he talked about self-actualization leading to a God consciousness. And so, but for years I was stuck in my brain. And the big red book talks about this, that in the first maybe 12 years of our life, the chemistry of the brain is developed, and then it's in stone. It's like, there it is. So anytime I get a little nervous, boom, the cortisol shoots up because I'm used to the high anxiety. And that's what my brain developed, and that's what my brain kept acting on all my life. Until I realized I had that fear, and then I had to go back and take the child with me and the inner children, which at first I was balking at because, wait a minute, grow up, you know. The messages I got. So, again, I said I went into the field of counseling. I got coaching certificates for addiction and some other stuff I do because I believe not only do we need the emotional, but there's an old proverb, I believe it's, and this is not ACA, but this is very interesting for me. There is an old proverb that says that everyone is a house with 4 rooms, a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And most of us tend to live in one room most of the time, but unless we go into every room every day, even if only to keep it aired, we are not a complete person. So that's held very true for me. And I would take care of my financial needs by being a workaholic, but I wasn't taking care of my emotional needs or spiritual needs because I was getting, I guess it's greed for more, you know, the addiction. We can't fill that hole enough. So money was big and, you know. But in the other side of the story, though, and the good side of the story is even though I was hypervigilant, You know, my bosses loved me because, as you may know, if you're hypervigilant, you're like micromanaging from the start, before it even was a word. You know, you knew, and they knew you knew that you weren't going to let anything go wrong, because that would mean I was wrong, and that would be my shame popping up. So I went through this process, and when I came in here, again, I really never was identifying what emotions I was feeling. You know, I didn't know what boundaries were. My relationships of codependency were based on me still trying to get the love from my mother that she just couldn't give me. But that was my need at the time, and that need was never met until I came into ACA and learned that there's a loving parent in all of us. And, you know, the part I love is, you know, it says this is a spiritual program coming from action, coming from love. And we will find the love within us. But I love Tony A's 12 steps because in Tony A's 12 steps, I think it's at least 7 times, he talks about a higher power, an unconditionally loving higher power. Not the one I was brought up with. I was brought up with a religion that was punishing, you know, sinful, you born a sinner, and, you know, you needed to constantly tell somebody my issues, but they never told me to speak to God myself. And this fellowship made me realize I needed to be quiet. I needed time and to develop that relationship. And for me, every morning is my ritual. I bring my 5-year-old who is still sometimes terrified of the world, and I bring my 17-year-old who's angry at the world. And we go to a place where I have a spiritual mother and a spiritual father. And believe it or not, the brain doesn't know reality. It just knows what you put in it. And so, being that I needed those things, this fellowship taught me self-love. That I should love myself with gentleness, humor, love, and respect. And respect is a key word for me because I never respected my own feelings, never mind others, even though I would react to others to fix them so I could feel safe. That's my codependency again. But I realized I wasn't doing any real justice for those people because just like myself, I had to go through the pain. And that's not comfortable. I wound up crying many, many days, many, many nights, even found myself curled up in my bed in the fetal position like a little child. And it was the 5-year-old who was finally getting a chance to let go of his pain. And through my tears comes my pain. And I don't know any other way to express it, but my body was holding on to this. And being released through my tears, I felt every day a little bit lighter inside. And I had less conflict inside. So every 12-step fellowship is based on getting to this 11th step, and then, of course, the 12th step. But the 11th step, we have conscious contact with our higher power, praying only for knowledge of its will for us and the power to carry it out. So that's, in other fellowships that I found, was very important, but it never really worked through my core issues, which ACA has done for me. And, I was listening last night to a speaker, and, I agree. I wish, and we are getting there. I mean, there are meetings all over the world now. And I believe that this fellowship is really the pathway to peace and love. But I have to find it in myself. I can't be at peace at the table with you if I'm still struggling with something. You're going to feel my nervous energy sitting at the table. And I realize that, too, as the brain develops and we create these thoughts and then these emotions, and then the energy, it actually spans out. And some science has said now that some of our emotions can go out up to 25 feet or more. And I didn't believe that until I sat in a room with a bunch of angry people and said, wow, you can cut the tension in the room with a knife. So it's kind of true when we bond together You know, I always say when I get a hug, I'm putting my heart up next to yours. And so one of the ways that I tend to calm myself down and find some inner peace is through my breath. And I do believe in every breath is where my higher power lies and speaks to me. And I don't take enough time sometimes to do that, because the world has me chasing things that don't bring me peace, that's for sure. They make me tired and just more anxious sometimes. So in this program, this fellowship, we are learning to remove those places that really blocked our heart. That when I get a trigger, my heart starts closing down, my defense starts going up, and I don't have peace. And I always say, if it takes away my peace, it's too expensive. So I'd like to do something here, and if you're willing, you can join me. Because again, when we were children and we developed this anxiety, this fear, our breathing became shallow. It was rapid but shallow. We lost the ability to have a full breath and calm my body down. And that's what the brain signals. The brain is good for one thing, and that's to monitor every organ in my body. If I get anxious, it's monitoring I don't have enough energy, oxygen in my lungs. It's going to make my heart start getting more rapid. It can even affect other organs. I think most of you know that. Anxiety is one of the main reasons we get ill. And there's science to back that up. So in our breathing, when we get to a full breath, and I'm going to try to do that with everybody today, we actually tell the brain we have enough, and the body relaxes. So that's why the breathing exercises are very important. I do them every day, and sometimes I do them, especially in traffic on 95. I better breathe a lot more there. So again, if you're willing, I'd like to start us off with just a quick couple minutes of maybe closing your eyes and focusing inward on your breath. We'll do this a couple of times. And when you breathe in, try to breathe in all the way to your stomach. And then allow it to come up and expand your chest all the way in to the top of your head. And then if you can, hold it for a couple of seconds. Two seconds. 1, 2, and release it. And then we could do that again and do it a couple of times. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Everybody a little calmer? So that's one way to kind of calm the body down. When the anxiety or the emotions, whatever they are, the body is the first to experience them. And it always comes from this perception of mine, which is usually not the reality of what's really going on. Like if I see an angry person, I would get tight and get very defensive. But yet, I know deep down inside, if I just sit for a few seconds, I can calmly say, that person's hurting. And I just need to ask them, are you okay? That usually works. Sometimes it doesn't. And they just get angrier. But that's not my problem. I'm not in control of anybody else's feelings. Even though I may think I am at times, I am not. We all have the power to control our own emotions. And I want to do that next. So if you're willing, again, just close your eyes. And go to something that made you uncomfortable. Not too painful, but something that made you uncomfortable that you can remember. Okay, don't stay there too long. And now go to a place that made you feel pleasure or, wonderfully loved or peaceful or whatever makes you feel good. Someone, someplace. Okay, now I want you to ask yourselves, who was the one pulling those memories out of your brain? So that's what a higher conscience should experience, the ability to be empowered over what I think and what I feel. Nobody has the right to take that away from you. But I wasn't taught that growing up. Like most of us, don't talk, don't feel, don't trust. But you have the ability inside each and every one of you. It was a gift given to us from our Creator. And what I know is that in my experience, I am starting to realize that we were created perfectly. That if you just take time to quiet yourself in meditation and prayer, your brain will heal itself. Because what we do in meditation is we give ourselves time to process. We give ourselves the ability to go from what hurts us to what's true and then what's the loving thing in that moment. Because I do feel that inside each and every one of us is that spirit of love. I believe that we all have that spirit of love, but because of what we've gone through, we react to certain situations and we hold it back. And I'm not saying not to set boundaries up for those people who are very abusive or attacking you as a person, because no one deserves to be attacked. And that's where we set boundaries up. And that's self-love. When I can love myself first and then love others after that. And I can't love others until I learned how to love myself. Because I can't know compassion to a person who's going through a struggle unless I've gone through that struggle. And I used to say I was very educated at one time. And, I thought I knew. And there's a big difference between thinking I know and knowing. Knowing brings me the wisdom and the experience. It makes me understand what it's about. And then I can understand others on a much deeper level. And I can understand what a lot of the masters said. And that's the other part. I said about this proverb from this Indian philosopher. Physically I have to take care of my body, and I have to sleep well, eat right, just do the things that are good for and healthy for the physical part of my body. And then mentally, I need to study, I need to learn, and I don't know anything, so I need a couple of these spiritual masters, and I have them all inside me. I have, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Yogananda, and I can go on and on. I study most of them because I need to learn what it is to be spiritual, how to become spiritual. And they all say the same thing, meditation. They all go to that place where they quiet themselves. And some of them even hear the voice of God, their higher power. And I think that's where the higher conscience needs to be for us to love those parts of us, those parts, the child that was traumatized at 5, the child who was angry and left alone and doing wild things that he shouldn't have been doing because he had no guidance, the 17-year-old who was angry. I have to be with that every day because that's a part of me. And I think authenticity is not about being perfect. It's about being honest. It's about being real. But where else can I find people that are so honest and open other than right here at ACA? And I look at this fellowship as a puzzle. Each piece unique in its own way. But together, the puzzle becomes a beautiful picture. And it becomes whole. And I think this fellowship really brings us to that connectedness that makes us whole. So I would like to have some feedbacks. So I want to do another meditation if you're willing. And this one's going to be a little bit of effort because I believe the chanting that the Buddhists do helps the vibration within us. And it's amazing when we do it together how it connects us. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, they start with Om, and I remember years ago when I was growing up in a Catholic church, they wouldn't say Amen, they would say Amen. And there was a reason for that, and now I know what the reason was. And again, it's because this vibration tends to touch us all. So in this meditation, you're going to hear, in fact, I'll try to run it and just give us a practice run. And then you're going to go into silence. And hopefully that's a place where if you're struggling with anything, go to that child who's struggling with that and give them the love they need and the understanding they need. Because that's what we didn't get. And the needs we didn't get met, it's like Tony A's 12 steps. We do a blameless inventory of our parents. Because that's where we become like them. So here it is. So one of the sayings it has is, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. And I think it was Wayne Dyer, and I'm sorry to go outside the fellowship with this, but I think it was him who said, the way we see the world, right? It's really about the way we see the world, right? So when we change what we see, the world changes. And I try to see the good now more than I ever. So I would like to do this meditation, if you don't mind. It's maybe 10 minutes. And we can do the chant together because, anyway, you got it. So, okay, make yourself comfortable. You can close your eyes or not. It's up to you. And again, if you want, in your quiet time, maybe go visit with your children and tell them how much you love them and how much you appreciate them. You're so glad that they survived with you and how much you love them. Okay, I didn't hear any snoring, so at least I don't think anybody fell asleep. But it was so nice to have a peaceful moment with all of you. Something came up on my screen while I was meditating, actually, and it said, "The way is not in the sky, it is in the heart." And that brings me back to why I meditate and why it's so important for me to retrain my brain to quiet itself. Because once I do that, that's where I can actually sense something greater inside. We call it a higher power, God, whatever you choose. I'm not here to speak of any one philosophy or religion, although I do follow one master, and he's pretty powerful in my book. But those are teachers to me that teach me how to be more like they were. But in this world, it can be kind of tough. But so what I wanted us to do is have a little time. Well, first, I want to kind of finish off with just going back to this philosophy of the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And so spiritually, we just did some work, and that was great. And, emotionally, that's something that even in the Big Red Book, it talks about more will be revealed, just keep coming back. And to respect the process, your process, which, more memories will come, and with those memories, the grieving process. Crying, letting go of the pain that you held on to since you were a child, and releasing it, and then sharing it with somebody you trust. It's important to share those things. We all need a witness to whatever we've been through. It's kind of like that connects us. I believe we get bonded more when somebody's going through struggles and we connect with them. I feel there's a strong bond there, and the trust develops and all that. And I couldn't do that outside of these rooms, to be honest with you, not at first. And now today I know there are people who can hear you, and there are people who just haven't done their own work. So they can't understand, but they'll listen, and they won't try to fix me. That's okay, too. There's the physical. The mental is, again, learning, trying to find out what works for you as far as this work that we do in this 12 steps. I mean, whether you've done the Yellow Book, the Traits Book, the Loving Parent Guidebook, great book. That's the work, right? So that's also mental, though, because we have to learn first to become aware that those things did happen to me, because I was in a deep denial. And then emotionally, we express them. We express that energy that comes up from those thoughts. If we sit with them for a little bit rather than dissociate or go from here to there, it's like that was my whole life, just running away from what I was feeling, and I was running away from myself. And so that leads us to the spiritual part. And I have to, I'm not saying anybody else has to, I have to know that there's a higher source helping me to heal for a more important purpose. And maybe the purpose was just to share with you at this moment. And that's it. But I don't know. I just keep going, and I keep looking. And I do believe, as someone mentioned last night, when you get to this level of spirituality, you cannot hold that love back. You will just find yourself struggling if you hold that love back. And some people do it in service. Some people do it, whatever they do at work, they do it with love, and as much love as they could put into it to help it to grow, because that's what love does. It helps to heal and grow. And so that's, the spiritual part that once I sat quietly and kind of got rid of all this crazy nonsense, I believe, not good enough, not worthy, whatever they are, I started realizing that there is a purpose for what I went through, the pain I've gone through, and that purpose is to share it with others who've gone through the same thing. And that's where I had this understanding years ago with my pain will turn into something good if I just acknowledge it and work through it and heal it. And whatever's not good will turn into good from those experiences. And that's so true, because we cannot fellowship and be bonded if we don't share our true selves, and that part of me that's covering that pain. So anyway, that's... So what I'd like to do is, let's see, how much time? No. Okay, so maybe we could just share a little. I'd like that. I'd like to hear what other people's experiences are, and did the meditation bring something for you, or whatever it is. I just would like some time for sharing from you, from all you. So, okay, I'm going to come running down.
Hi. Okay, I'm Bonnie. Thank you so much. This chanting was really effective for me. When I first came in here, I was scared of it, and I told a friend about that. But anyways, it just really helped me to see the reason behind it. And that's what I'm trying to work on, is be more in the present and helping others. So thank you.
Thank you. And one of the reasons is that every emotion we have, the brain vibrates at a certain level. So when we do that chant together, we are on the same level at that moment. Regardless of the energy we are promoting right there is the same. And that's why the chanting becomes pretty more intense when I'm doing it with people. So much better. Yes. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Hope. Haven't shared yet at this conference, so that was really cool. I don't know how many people in this room might relate with this or not, but I often struggle with meditating because I'm not diagnosed ADHD, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, my thoughts from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep are just like Mexican jumping beans. And so whenever I have an opportunity to sit down and meditate, or I'm asked to meditate like here, I'm like, oh great. All right, let's try this again. I suck at it, right? And I almost dread it a little bit, and I'm also not very good at, I'm really bad at time management, so I don't meditate nearly as much as I would like to, but when I have rarely gotten the opportunity to sit down and do it like here, it really opens my eyes. I visualized some things. I visualized walking through the Vatican Museum because it was a really beautiful place for me. I visualized floating in clouds. And I thought about a million other things too, but I kept trying to come back to those visualizations. And that was awesome because I can be anywhere that I want to be, even things that don't make sense in reality or that aren't real. And I like that. It brings forth this creativity that I don't get in my day-to-day. And I really liked that, And of course, there's so much more to meditation than that, but I've yet to discover it, and I'm excited, so thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to share on that because what happens is at first I couldn't meditate either. The brain, so I used guided meditation because then I could at least follow something. And it would keep bringing me back to that something until I finally got able to just come back into my breath. And my brain still today, and I meditate, I'm a good meditator, but I still go off in thought sometimes. That's the reason I bring the chant in every 5 minutes, because it reminds me to come back to my breath, come back inside here, stay in here. We don't need to be out there right now. And so there's many methods.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Irene. I caught maybe the last 4 minutes of that. And thank you, Andy, for your service. And I just want to say thank you to everybody in the room. Meditation in a group for me is it just amplifies the experience, and I just go so much deeper, so much faster. So this is really a gift because I can't remember the last time I got to sit in a group this large. And for me, meditation, I really don't like the word because I think every person I've ever spoken to, including myself, has this experience of like, I suck at meditation. So I feel like the word is a block to what it actually is. And for me, it's just a way of coming home to myself, like the true self we talk about in ACA, and to just notice my body. And sometimes I think I'm really peaceful and everything's great, and then I sit with myself and I notice all the tension and the tightness in my body. And the difference for me today is that in the past, when I noticed the tension and tightness, I would criticize myself and be like, oh, look at who you think you are and who you really are. And now, when I notice the tension and the tightness, I offer myself loving kindness. And I know, ooh, today, you're a little bit tight. You're a little tighter than normal, and I'm pretty uptight. So I just know that going through my day to be a lot nicer and kinder and softer with myself. And the same thing goes for my feelings. And if my mind is grabbing onto whatever it's grabbing onto that doesn't serve me, it's an opportunity for my loving parent to be like, hey, kid, I'm here with you. So for me, this is the gift and the doorway into the truest self that I could have. So thank you.
Hello. Oh, hi, my name is Rachel, and I am a grateful recovering adult child. Thank you for everybody for being here. So thank you for holding this. This weekend has been very transformative for me. And I had an experience where the last 3 months or so I've been having a hard time at work because I'm a manager and I have one direct report who is very cold and distant and guarded towards me. And it's been triggering me so much because I try to come at my job as action coming from love and try to treat everybody with a lot of dignity and respect and extra love because I know how important that is because of what I've been through. This has been bothering me for 3 months or longer because no matter how much love I pour out, this person still is meeting me with resistance, guardedness, negative emotions. And I was thinking I was a bad boss. Of course, I was telling all this stuff to myself in my head. I'm a bad boss. I'm doing something wrong. What's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Blah, blah, blah. And then yesterday, in Bonnie V's workshop about the loving parent, she said specifically, find that child within and ask her what's going on. Ask her where this is coming from. Why is this triggering me so badly? And so that's what I did in this meditation today. Thank you for holding this sacred space for this to happen. And I reached out to her because the first question Bonnie V asked was, well, how old are you? And then she said, well, what's going on? What do you need? How can I help you? How can I help, I was going to say fix this, but, remedy this, help you give you the love you need. And I did that, and it was a little 5-year-old who was frightened to death. And I said, how old are you? And she said 5. And I said, what do you need? And she said, I am so scared. Mommy hates me. Mommy doesn't like me. Mommy's going to be mean to me. Mommy's going to yell at me. Mommy's going to hit me. Mommy's going to scream at me. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. No, you're safe. It's okay. Mommy won't do that to you. I love you. I love you so much. You'll be okay. And then I realized that so much of my childhood, I was approaching my mom with so much love. And I was giving her all this love only to be met with coldness, resistance, all of those same emotions that this person at work was giving me. And it was just a mirror. It was an absolute mirror of what's going on. And it was triggering my inner child so much. And I was able to put these pieces together today thanks to this meditation. And wow, that's made all the difference. And I have a feeling tomorrow things are going to shift. I have a feeling they've already shifted, and I'm hoping that my relationship with this person will improve as a result. And I have to go see her in person in a couple of weeks anyhow, so and spend time with her in San Diego in person for a while. So thank you. And thank you to all of you for being here. This has been great.
Hi, I'm Faith. I'm a loving adult. And I'm going to start by thanking you because I have never experienced the vibration stuff, but I have people talk to me about it all the time. So thank you. And for myself, I found God when I was 10. And it turned out that I went to an all-day Hebrew school, and the teachers, who are rabbis, said, if you ask God for something, he'll answer your prayers. Well, okay, my mother got sick. I'm 10. She got sick. I started praying. I asked God, please make her better. And this is what I heard. Don't worry, my child. I heard that for an entire year until she died. It was a man's voice that said that. How would I even know those words? But that's not the only time that God, sometimes for me, I kind of freak out because in my recovery, I hear so well, and for me, I met my inner child when I was 30. And what had happened is I had gone to a mind-expanding type of thing. And just like the recordings that you hear about walking on the sand and seeing somebody come. So this little kid and I was walking down it, it was great. And then I come home as a regular adult, and I said, oh, I can meditate. This will be really good. And basically what happened was I heard I had just started away, and I heard a man's voice say, carry the message. And I got really pissed. I said, how the hell do you expect me, to carry the message? I'm not even sure I know what the message is. And it has stayed in my head. And I know that I've always carried the message, but it's taken me so long to see it.
Thanks, Andy. Hi, I'm Chris. And I appreciate you. I see you. I got to tell you that when you start this meditation and not here when I started, I would never close my eyes in a room full of people. In my neighborhood, you never closed your eyes. And when I started, I would keep one eye open, seeing what you guys were doing in a small group. I didn't do that, What I really want to tell you that my practice has come to, my heart became undefended. Nothing in this program ever quieted down my noise in my head than meditation and prayer. And I had to practice for a long time because I'm terrified most of the time before I got here. It's a gift. And I never thought it applied to me. I wanted to do all the other stuff. I was too busy. And when I get busy, I stop meditating. And my sponsor would be telling me, you need more, not less. Saved my life. And I love that thing about practicing chanting, sending blessings and love and compassion to the world, not just me, to the world. It's a great spiritual practice. Thanks.
My name is Rachel. I'm an adult child of alcoholics. I've never shared in a group this big, only once or twice in person, so this is hard. So during the meditation, I went and found little Rach in this field of grass that's about waist high for her. And she loves being out in nature. she was playing, and I took her aside and started talking to her, told her that I love her and she's not alone, and that we're going to get through this together. I told her that it's okay to feel. I told her it's okay to speak. At the moment, I forget what else I told her, but I was telling her all those things, and then she disappeared. I tried to find her. I went through other memories, other locations from around that age, and I couldn't find her during this meditation. So for me, that just tells me that she's still lost, she still feels alone, and I need to be there for her more.
Hi, I'm Chris, adult child. Another one. I really struggled with connecting to my higher power in my program, and I struggled with connecting with the inner child, and it's like everything broke all at once when I finally sat down and did the dominant, non-dominant handwriting. So the first time I sat down and did it, I expected to connect to that little boy, because that's what I was struggling with. Like every time I tried to connect to the little boy, the teenager would kick the door in and be like, no, you're not touching him, you know what I mean? He's always protected him my whole life. So the first time I sat down and did the writing, I expected to connect to the little boy, and the teenager was there again. And he made it very clear that I've ignored him and them, you know, my little boy as well, my whole life. And just through one session of speaking with the inner teenager, I was able to make a couple agreements with him. You know, like I gave him a new job, you know, so your job's not to, you know, find everything wrong with the world and protect the little child anymore. Your job's find new ways for us to have fun. And I have a car that's fun to drive, so I let him drive the car one day, and I thought he was going to go nuts and kill us, but he didn't. You know, he had a little bit of fun, and then all of a sudden he went quiet. And then the next time I sat down and did the non-dominant handwriting, my little boy showed up. And it was really interesting because the little boy was like, that was when I was really able to finally connect to the feeling that I had my whole life that I thought was anger, which was really fear. Like I had spent most of my life afraid. And once I could finally connect to that little boy, then I could stop being afraid, because I could reassure him that, listen, I'm a big boy now. You know, like I asked him the question, how old am I? He's like, 20? I'm like, no, dude, we're a lot older than that. And then he became quiet. And then through that, I was able to connect to my higher power, because before I connected to my inner people, they were always in my head, just constantly going, like telling me everything they need, and I wouldn't listen to any of it. The minute I listened, they went quiet, and then I could start to connect to my spirituality and my higher power. It's really transformative for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. Oh, my voice is better today. My name's Christine. And so I was way, like, almost to the end of the Yellow Book, and I just didn't like the word meditation, and I still don't like the word meditation. And for me, I realized that my defense or my coping is overfunctioning and overthinking and planning and being hypervigilant. And so to have to pause and, like, set that down, to go over here and be still, that for me was my aversion, because I had to set that down. And so I realized that I didn't want to set it down, and I realized that was my defense, and that helped me become willing to slow down. And I think that growing up, my brain became wired for anxiety, and so I think of meditation as wiring my brain for calm. And so I don't want to do it, but the more that I do it, the more it builds a new pathway for me. And builds muscle memory, so when I go into stress, I can be like, okay, and I do like 4 square breathing. Oh gosh, and there was one more thing I was going to say. Hold on a second. Oh my God, it came out of my brain. I'm going to lose my chance. Oh shoot, I can't remember what it is. I'll have to pass. I can't remember what it is. Thanks.
I've had a lot of wonderful moments of connecting with my higher power, but I still struggle with understanding or recognizing God's will versus my own. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that, your experience with that, and anybody else in the group as well.
That's a pretty powerful question. So, they say to know thyself is to know thy Lord. So what I need to do first is I need to really do my own work to get clarity and clear the wreckage of the past. And then I find always, if it touches my heart, I need to be in it. And if it's to serve, I need to be in it. Because for me, the will of God is always about loving others or loving myself. But it's very tricky because I'm a codependent. And I want to fix the world. I want to help everybody. And then I come home drained and tired, and then I'm blaming everybody for that. So everybody has their own conscious contact. And I cannot tell anybody the will of God, because the will of God is so expansive that everybody in here has got something probably different than mine. So I have to really stay inside myself and really question, like, what am I to do today through your eyes, God, my high power, God, I call him. You know, what am I supposed to do today? And please help me to see it as I go through my day. Because sometimes it's something that just pops up out of nowhere. And it's a call for us to be available, be there, experience it. Sometimes it's experiences that are painful because God wants me to remind me that this hurt you. I don't want you there, but I needed to show you again. And the thing I love is I heard this saying that life is the perfect teacher. Whatever you don't learn the first time, it'll keep repeating it for you. So, that's one thing. But I wanted to say something because I heard a lot of critical parent stuff going on. I love this saying I share a lot at meetings, and it says, a child who is criticized doesn't stop loving its parents, it stops loving itself. And that was my dilemma growing up. I just couldn't love myself until I had this conscious contact. And I felt that God loved me unconditionally, and who am I not to accept that love? That will only make me a better person in this world. And that, to me, is where the will of God is. Just becoming a better person for the purpose of his love and unconditional.
I'm John. I'm an adult child. I went to a seminar one time. It was out in California, and there was a horse person, and he was talking about raising horses and the weanlings, the young foals that come off of the mares, and how they need to get trained to be alone. And he thought he had a method that worked, and he said that when you get in there, before you go in, meditate, get your heart rate down, and that way when you go sit with the horse in the stall or the young foal, she sees you, or as in this case, a filly that I've worked with this and once and very successful, that she could hear my heartbeat from 4 foot away. They claim that horses can do that, and I believe that. And then when they, it was just, they see they're not predators. They're herd animals and stuff. Eyes on the side of their head, and they're looking at me. She was, and it was eyes in the front of the head, and fearful I'm going to hurt her. And it just taking that time and doing that with her when I'd first get with her all the time, I made a friend, and she trusted me. That was the thing. It was up for her. She had to trust me. I couldn't teach her to trust me. She had to gather that from what she saw in me. And I just always think about that was really a practical way to work with horses on that. That's all good.
Hi, I'm Carl, adult child. So I've been meditating for 6 years, or whatever you want to call it, and it took probably about 5 years to figure out what I liked. And obviously this group setting is incredible, so thank you all for joining in with me. And I want to give you a gift that I got. And the meditation, there's two of them that, because when you leave here, if you really love this, you're going to go seek on Google and try to figure out what's best. So I recently did a Dr. Joe walk with the world where there's tens of thousands of people doing the same meditation with you at the same time all over. That was really powerful because you feel it. And then the second gift was Tony Robbins priming. You can go on Google, type in priming Tony Robbins. It's 15 minutes long, and I start every day with it. Hundreds of my friends have now adapted this into their daily practice, and it just brings in gratitude and all these beautiful things, and it's really, really changed my life. So definitely give it a try, and thank you for being here.
Rita? Okay. Ooh, in recovery, I want to kind of address God's will, something very deep to my heart. So, whenever I've been in recovery for 40 years, and 30 of those I was also involved in Christian ministry. And so, whenever I hear God's will, other people comes to my mind first. And as an adult child and a codependent, that is toxic, And so I think for me, I found out that I tend to complicate things. And so God's will for me is to find my inner child, to get healthy, to get quiet, to love myself. Because when I do that, then, everything else falls into place. The reason why I'm so kind of passionate about that is that I spent 30 years taking care of other people, so probably all of you, And so when we get into these situations, for me, when I think of God's will, right away I'm thinking the world, taking care of the world, taking care of the poor, taking care of everybody else, And so I don't believe that anymore. I believe that my number one purpose is to really get to my inner children, find out who I am, find out my gifts and purposes. As an adult child, I'll spend my whole life being somebody else, So all of a sudden I'm finding out that I'm creative, or, I love animals, or different things that I never thought before because I was in dysfunction and so busy. Or I was in other situation where always taking care of other people because I felt they were more important than I. And that is not true, So as a Christian, there is a verse that God says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prosper." For some reason, people don't talk about that a lot, but that is God's will. For us as individuals to be in health, to prosper. And whichever way we're going to get to that, that's the way to go. So I know that helped me a lot to figure it out and make it very simple, that I am number one priority, and that is God's will for my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita.
Hi, there we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Amy, and I'm an adult child. Right here? Okay, now everybody can hear me. So one of the things for me for God's will is, like right now, I was thinking about meditation and all of that, and my heart is hot and pounding. And that lets me know that I need to get something out of myself. Because meditation scares the heck out of me. I've been coming around for about 5 years, and I had somebody say to me one time, "I'll teach you to meditate, and you can do it by yourself." And I said, I do not go in there alone. And I still don't go in there alone, but I have moments when I talk like I'm talking here. And I just take a second and I listen to what is being mirrored back to me maybe, or God is saying, and sometimes it's really clear. Like now, it was saying, get that microphone. Say that out loud, that it's scary for me to meditate. I'm not there yet, and that's okay, because I have time here. This isn't a race. And that's my biggest thing that I learned, is that it's not a race. I can do it in my own time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. The process is, everybody's process is their own, and they need to, again, be gentle and kind to themselves when they're going through it, because sometimes it can bring up some trauma that we haven't experienced fully yet. And that's where guided meditation sometimes helps me, because I feel like there's somebody talking to me and being with me through it. And so that helps sometimes. Okay, I like the story with looking at the horse and gaining the horse's trust. And that goes back to what I was saying about the energy. You know, animals are instinctively pulling up energy. You know, a dog won't come near you if you got this energy. He'll back away. He won't come close. Or he won't be wagging his tail, right? When he's happy and he feels safe with you, he'll be wagging his tail, loving to see you. And, you know, and that's kind of, wish I was like that. But that's the proof of how we give off energy to everything around us. And I'm not always good energy, so that's what I need to surround myself with, people that can understand that understand on a deeper level, that I just need to be with somebody to identify and release that energy. So anyway, I wanted to thank everybody. I hope you all got something out of this, and to try to remember that you're the most important person in this world right now. And unless you love yourself and take care of yourself first, you won't get what you need outside, because I have a lot of people in my life that love me, but they can't always be there for me. And I have to accept that I can be there with my higher power all the time. And once I got that, I wasn't afraid to be alone, and I wasn't needy for the love of others. Don't get me wrong, I fall short a lot of times, and I need surrounded with loving people, and that's what I find in ACA, because of the fact that that's what we do, you know, action coming from love. And so anyway, I want to thank everybody, and I'd like to close. With the Serenity Prayer. And first, a deep breath. We'll take a moment with the breath, quiet ourselves. Dear God, grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know that one is me. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you, everybody.